Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yanique Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Andrew O. Andrew is an award-winning UX strategist, designer, and author based in Vancouver, BC. He helps SaaS companies increase their revenue and profitability by reducing cost of support and while building a better customer experience. His past clients include HSBC, Rosetta Stone, and Asurion. So without further delay, sit back, plug your earphones in, and let's jump right into this conversation with Andrew. Welcome, Andrew.
Welcome, Yanique. How's it going?
It's going well. So we always like to give our guests the opportunity to share in their own words a little bit about their journey. So, how did you get to where you are today? I know we read like a brief bio, but it's always good to get in the guests' own words, a little bit about their own journey.
Yeah, sounds good. So, I started off in, UX design. I've been doing that for, I think over around 8 to 10 years now. And like you mentioned, used to work for companies like HSBC, Asurion, and FitBrains, Rosetta Stone. And now I'm just sort of running my own consultancy where I help SaaS founders build beautiful products that impact the world. And a lot of that I think has to do, creating an excellent customer journey and a good customer experience.
All right. Now, customer experience, SaaS products, support services. Can you share with us maybe some trends that you see emerging or have emerged since 2022 as it relates to this part of service delivery or customer experience?
Yeah, I think, there's a very interesting intersection between customer experience and user experience, mainly that, we both of the words end with experience. Mm-hmm. And so, it's a very, very interesting intersection because they sort of do affect each other. And a lot of the, overarching trend is that we're always moving towards a better user experience. And what I noticed is that, when there's a customer experience issue, it typically always comes back to something related to sort of the design of the product. And that's where users get stuck. So, one of the things I noticed is that when you actually, when there's a support issue, and you can actually fix it and make the product better from a user experience standpoint. And that actually, by getting to the root cause, it actually improves the product by a lot. And there are a lot of benefits to it.
All right. Now, a lot of our listeners are also interested in the direct correlation between revenue, profitability, and customer experience. From a UX strategy point of view, how does that, how are you going user experience? Because whereas customer experience probably talks the more tangible, user experience is probably more talking about the digital experience, right? Like if you're building a product, how does the client or the customer travel through the journey that you are taking them through in a digital way, while still holding all of the same principles and values that you would if it was a face-to-face interaction or even over the phone. So how can we translate that in a positive way? And if it's not done positively, why would it impact our revenue and profitability?
Yeah, so, the thing you have to realize is that, like, when a user is using your product, they sort of have an idea of how to use the product. And that's sort of like a customer's intuition on how the product should work. So when you're designing a product, you should always keep that in mind and also set the expectations so that the users know where they are in the journey. Now, a big part of where customer experience comes into play is that, with a good product experience, for example, like Google, and most of the time, I think like if you never have, like most users never probably have to contact Google because their product is just so easy to use. Now, the opposite of that is you're contacting a product for support because experience is bad. And that's what happens, right? That's because somewhere along the way, you were trying to do something and you couldn't do what you needed to do. So then you needed to contact support to get it done. So that's primarily what happens. And that means there's a cost of support associated with that. That means you got to spend the resource into fixing that issue, right? So that's how like a bad customer experience makes a direct impact or has a direct impact on the revenue and profitability, because you shouldn't rely on customer support to help your users navigate the product. And if you're seeing a really high cost of support in that aspect, that means there's a really sort of like a gap in the user experience.
So, dovetailing off of what you just said now, Andrew, what about those companies or products that don't have an avenue for you to get through to customer support? So, I've bought products already, and as you mentioned, I've booked up on a roadblock and I need to get some assistance, and I go to their website, and the only avenue that they have for me to get through to someone is to send an email. They have no live chat with live agents. There's no telephone number there for me to actually call a number and get through. And sending an email, of course, is clearly not going to have my issue resolved in the next 5 or 10 minutes. What are your thoughts on companies that take that approach?
Well, that means they definitely have a gap in the product experience, because you're in a situation where you need to contact support, but it's not there, right? So that means you must be pretty you must feel kind of frustrated, or you wanted to get your problem solved, but it's not available, right? Is that how you're feeling at that moment?
Mm-hmm. I am.
Yeah. And I always like this. I would always like to say that it's really crucial that a company focuses on building a good customer experience, because that's how you get loyal users to come back to you, and raving fans that love your product. So if you sort of have that cutoff for customer support, and people are having trouble reaching the company where they actually need it, I don't think that's a really good strategy. And I think users like you will get frustrated, and that might negatively impact your relationship with that company.
Mm-hmm. So then your recommendation is they should have an avenue by which you can actually get through to someone, a live human being who can answer your question, correct?
Well, that's actually one of two strategies. So yes, like talking to a human helps, but on the other hand, you can also look at when these problems occur, like why did they happen? And from a company strategy point of view, if they're having these issues come up pretty often, they should look into solving that so that it doesn't happen again, and that will actually be a better strategy for improving the user experience.
Okay. One of the other things that we do get asked a lot is, how can we reduce the cost of customer support? So what's one way? Would the strategy putting something in place that eradicates that complaint from coming forward again be one way to reduce customer support? And are there any other ways?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's coming from like a UX strategy point of view. So I'll sort of tell you a lot of what companies do when they have these issues, because I've experienced it myself, right? I'll tell you a story. Like I was using this product. It was like a LinkedIn outreach tool, and I was having trouble using it because I was expecting the software to function a certain way, but it didn't. So then I had to contact support, and then support was explaining to me like, oh no, that's not how our product works. You gotta use it this way or do this and that, and then you won't run into this issue. And I'm thinking if I'm having this issue, there must be a lot of users who are also having it, because the way that I had envisioned it to work was actually really, really, really different. So then what's happening is these companies are training their customer experience reps to explain the product should function a certain way. And they have to do that over and over again. And it's not solving the root of the problem. So what companies should actually do is, when they encounter these issues, and these issues, they're likely frequent, they should actually, look at it from a design point of view and see how they can solve that. Because once they do, it leads to a lot of benefits downstream. Like when you eliminate the root of the problem, you eliminate the cost of training, the cost of support and documentation for that problem, because they no longer exist. So I think companies should really, when they face a situation where they're seeing the same support issues over and over again, they should look into solving that and getting to the root of that problem and solving that directly. And that will actually ease up the support volume and also reduce the cost of support.
All right. Okay. Now, Andrew, could you also share with our audience, maybe I would say 1 to 3 tips that you believe will help organizations build a better customer experience?
Absolutely. So I think number one is you got to be really customer centric. And that means, doing your best to make sure that you give the customers the best experience in whatever avenue. So if they're having troubles, make it become human and try to help them solve that problem directly instead of being so strict or so robotic in your policies. And I'll give you one example, right? Like I was using a software a while ago, and I had forgotten to turn off my billing, and they just billed me without even telling me, and they didn't even send out emails or anything. So I sort of felt like a complaint because I was not happy with the way they were doing things. And they actually responded. And there's 2 ways it could have gone. One is they just say, well, sorry, according to our policy, we don't actually offer any refunds. But the support rep was really, really human and sort of talked to me in a way that was human and really nice. And she actually, helped me solve that problem. And I actually appreciated that. Like that gave me so much more like hope and happiness, because I really appreciated the fact that they were customer centric, and being that, it makes me want to become more of their customer. So I think that's definitely the most important tip. Because if you focus on just giving value to your customers, I think your customers will really appreciate that. And I think, second thing is, again, sort of similar, but again, it's focusing on the user experience side of things. Because if you really focus on building a great customer experience, you'll have an amazing product. And the benchmark of a really amazing product is that it doesn't require so much support for the user to navigate the product and learn how to use it.
All right. Great tips. Thank you so much, Andrew. Now, Andrew, could you also share with our audience, what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely can't live without in your business?
Ooh, that's a sort of interesting one. I think from a business owner's perspective, I think tools that help me eliminate time, like Calendly, for example, definitely helps just clean things up. I definitely think I can't live without that, because organizing all my meetings and becoming aware of them. I think getting a good email is also good, because again, it helps me organize my time and everything. I guess that's coming from more of a business owner perspective. Mm-hmm. Getting all your tools done, cutting out the main idea is to cut out all the little things, all the little distractions, and any tools that will help you do that. Is something that you want to look into.
Okay. All right. Could you also share with us maybe 1 or 2 books that you have read? It could be a book that you read recently, or maybe one that you read a very long time ago, but it has had a big impact on you.
Okay. This is going to sound interesting because it's actually, this book isn't really like a design book. It's actually a martial arts book from Bruce Lee called the Tao of Jeet Kune Do. But what I really appreciated from this book was just the philosophies in there were just so eye-opening. It talks a lot about simplicity and everything, and that's actually where I get a lot of my. So it talks about a lot of principles of simplicity, economy, and efficiency when it comes to martial arts, and it's totally different. I get it, but I've adapted a lot of that principles in my design. So that means a lot of my design principles actually come from that. Simplifying things when it comes to designing interfaces, so on and so forth. And it's really just mind-opening.
All right. Okay. So we will have that. That was just one book, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll have that book in the show notes of this episode for our listeners if they'd like to tap into that resource. Now, Andrew, could you also share with us what's one thing that's going on in your life right now that you are really excited about? Either something you're working on to develop yourself or your people.
Yeah. So, right now, I'm helping tech founders build amazing products, and I think just the whole idea of like I'm a kind of person where I really like to improve things. So when I'm working on these projects, I think about like how much they can impact users in the world, and so I'm also making it efficient for myself to help other tech founders do that. And yeah, that to me is really exciting to help a lot of tech founders build amazing products, and really seeing a lot of their ideas, and then talking about ideas, working through them. And then, coming out with solutions that really help other people.
Okay. All right. So our listeners would have tapped into this episode, Andrew, and they're really psyched about your journey, and they would like to connect with you online. Where can they find you online?
Yeah, so they can find my website, andrewou.com.
Okay, that's it?
Yeah, and actually, I do have a gift for all the listeners here. It's an 8-page, like super easy to read PDF that you can consume in 8 minutes or less. And it's about the 5 ways UX can help SaaS companies increase revenue and profitability. And that's on andrewo.com/guide, GUIDE.
All right. Fantastic. So we will have the link to that gift that Andrew is gifting all of our listeners that tap into this episode in the show notes of this episode. So please look out for it and do go and grab that. I'm sure it would be a great resource. Now, Andrew, before we wrap our episodes up, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote? It kind of helps to get you back on track if for any reason you got derailed or you got off track.
So I think, through my challenging times, there's one quote that keeps coming back to me, and it's by Winston Churchill. And I think it goes something like this. It's like, out of immense complexities, immense simplicities emerge. And for some reason, that just sticks with me. Like if you're going through a really complicated process or a part in your life, there's always going to be some light at the end of the tunnel. And the answer to that is going to be fairly simple.
All right. Very good. Okay. So we will definitely have that quote for our listeners in the show notes of this episode. Now, we really would like to extend our gratitude to you, Andrew, for taking time out of your very busy schedule to hop on to our podcast and share all of these great nuggets as it relates to UX and reducing cost for customer support and recognizing the importance of customer experience in the whole user experience and just trying to help our listeners navigate through that process. Your feedback and advice that you provided for us in this podcast was greatly appreciated. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yanique. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Just want to remind our listeners to follow us on Twitter at NavigatingCX and feel free to join our private Facebook group, Navigating the Customer Experience Community. Until next time, I'm your host, Yanique Grant. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Yanique Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.